Hi, welcome to the Be the Cake podcast with me, your host Liz Campbell. And today I would like to talk to you about transformation. Quite specifically, if you've happened upon this whilst wandering the halls of YouTube, so to speak, and you clicked on it, it's because the word transformation's in the title. So you are obviously someone who's curious about transformation, or who is in the process of a transformation, or wants to try to understand how a transformation takes place successfully. So let's get into it. Okay. Transformation. This is an interesting one, actually. From a personal point of view, if you were to look at certain things to do with, for example, my astrological chart, you would understand that I'm the perfect person to be talking about this because Uranus is my dominant planet in my chart. Okay, so your dominant planet and your ruling planet are not the same thing. If you want to know what your dominant planet is, you can go to astroseek.com. If you literally just type into Google AstroSeek dominant planet, basically it will come up with the thingy you can click on and it will take you there, and you can put in all the details of your birth, etc. And you can get, okay, so this is where it gets interesting. You can look at tropical or sidereal on this, and it will tell you exactly what your dominant planet is and what your next most dominant planet is, and so on and so forth. And with these things, and this is something I've spoken about in a written piece I did on Substack, and you might well be watching this video on Substack, but you might be watching it on YouTube also, quite kind of quite, I was going to say coherently for some reason. Like, you might be on YouTube watching this, you might be on Substack. I'm in both places, oddly enough. If you're on YouTube and you want to read my writing, then please come and join me over there, subscribe, etc. I'll put links and everything underneath this video, so you can check all the links out after you've finished listening to me speak about this, or even whilst you're listening to me speak about this. Okay, your dominant planet is so fucking relevant. I say this from my own experience, whether you're into human design or not. I would actually say if you're into human design, it's actually particularly pertinent. It certainly has been for me, in terms of, like, your dominant planet might be something when you look at your Gene Keys hologenetic profile that doesn't actually show on the Gene Keys hologenetic profile, because the hologenetic profile for the Gene Keys with the pathways in it doesn't necessarily have, I'm just trying to think what's missing in there. It's definitely got, like, the path of fortune definitely features, and Jupiter definitely features, and the sun definitely features, and I can't remember because I did do an analysis of it at some point. But anyhow, basically your dominant planet is like an overarching theme for your life. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to astrology, and I will sort of back up what I've said before in previous video and shorts on here if you've kind of seen those. I'm not an astrologer. I'm not, I'm going to tell you all the things I'm not. I'm not a human design expert. I haven't trained in it. I utilize it for myself. I don't follow the teachings that everyone puts out. I view it as the experiment that it was always supposed to be. And there are certain things that I have been intuitively guided to look at in relationship to it that have made a lot of sense to me. And I'm sharing some of those things here now. Okay, so your dominant planet and your ruling planet are not necessarily going to be the same. You may find that your ruling planet actually comes in the list of, like, your slightly less dominant but still dominant planets when you pull up that list, when you put all your details into AstroSeek. Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that your dominant planet is a kind of part of the overarching theme of your life. Okay, so whatever the dominant planet is and what it relates to is going to be something that's got quite a lot to do with your purpose work. This is the way I see it. Okay, So I've known for ages that I'm an alchemist. I'm here to create transformation in my life and the lives of others through various different mediums and through my creativity and so on and so forth. You know, there's a bunch of different ways it can be applied. I look very primarily at energy alchemy because it's one of the ways that I have kind of developed and had sort of moving through me for quite a few years now that I absolutely love. And the clues are always in the things that you love, that you're good at, etc., etc., etc. You know, if it feels hard work and you don't enjoy it, it's not for you. You know, you don't have to try and make something that doesn't feel right to you be for you. But if you love it, if you're also good at it, it doesn't matter. Actually, I'm going to go as far as to say, if you absolutely love it, even if you're not that good at it, you can improve, okay? There's a whole thing with skills. You can develop them. Like, life isn't just about what you're talented at. You might have a genius zone area, but there might be some other things that you absolutely love that you personally feel you're not that good at, but you can improve with practice. You know, this is one of these things, like, people do this all the time. People practice piano. People aren't born going, I know how to play the piano and I'm a genius at it. Some people are, you know, you do come across these things sometimes, but a lot of the time there's a lot of man hours goes into developing a skill, whatever it might be. There might be a lot of studying. There might be all sorts of things. For me personally, the energy work side of things has been partially study. It's been a fuckload of practice. It's been bringing through my natural abilities and honing them in terms of understanding them. Okay. And one of the things that I do when I'm working with any client is I encourage them to really tune into the way that feels right for them to work with energy. I literally just held a workshop on Monday night where I was going through things and I was saying, you know, when I was going through all of the different subject matter of the workshop, I was also emphasizing the point that, you know, everyone has to find out what resonates. So it's worth playing around with things, seeing what feels good, seeing what doesn't, different tools, different so on and so forth. When it comes to working with energy or activating, or even like art materials, anything, it doesn't matter. Styles of music that you're producing, it could be anything, okay? Work out. Figure out what feels good to you. Figure out what sparks you up and do that thing, okay? Because that will take you far. When you spend your time going, I really don't like this, but I'm going to develop the skill because I feel like I need to like sacrifice and suffer in order to do well in life. Christ, I mean, you're going to be miserable and it's going to feel hard, basically. So, you know. What do I know? I've only played around with this shit for years on end. Anyhow, so the Uranus thing, for me personally, as my dominant planet, Uranus, if you know anything about astrology, Uranus is the planet of transformation. It produces transformation. It can feel a bit like a lightning bolt sometimes. I have at times in the past described myself as a catalyst, as an activator, because yes, I do those things. You know, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Sometimes it's a question of having a conversation with someone and they'll say something and something will occur to me and I'll point it out and they'll be like, holy shit, I never thought of things that way before. And oh my God, I've got a new perspective on stuff. You know, so it can work in a number of different ways. Anyhow. Dominant planets. Your dominant planet will give you a really good understanding just from the point of view of understanding what that planet's about, what the kind of overarching theme of your purpose work is. So Uranus being my dominant planet is perfect. The other one that's fairly dominant in my chart is Saturn. Okay, and Saturn is all about structure and order and discipline, and it's quite masculine toned, okay? But essentially, I think this for me is where the teaching part comes in. Anyhow, kind of that's slightly by the by. But when it comes to transformation, like this is a subject I know a thing or two about. You know, being here to create transformation in myself and others, having dug into the whole Uranus kind of edge of things, and where that specific, like, interestingly enough for me, like where that plays out in terms of my placements within my human design body graph. So that's a whole other thing. Actually understanding kind of where, you know, your dominant planet, where that shows up in your human design body graph, is going to give you quite a big clue as to, you know, whatever gate it's in terms of your natal positioning, is going to be the place in your body where you potentially, you know, it can be a blessing or a curse depending on whether that gate is currently activated or not. You know, the gate will be defined if it's got a planet in it, but whether or not it is working for or against you will be dependent on whether that gate is activated or not. And it will also show you what tends to come up that causes the blockages in terms of certain things. So, you know, there's a whole load of stuff around this. I'm not going to go into further detail about this particular thing at this particular point. But needless to say, okay, when it comes to transformation, me knowing a thing or two about knowing a thing or two, like, the first thing I will say is very fucking important for you to, first off, if you're looking at any kind of transformation, if you just know that you want your life to transform, but you're not sure, like, how, you just know that you're not happy where you are, it's so fucking important for you to sit down, get still, get quiet, get very, very clear on what's wanting to come through you from your soul in terms of the direction that you want to go in next, so that you can understand the transformation that you need to undertake. Okay, because if you are not happy where you are for whatever fucking reason, and you want a transformation for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to create the transformation from a place of being confused, unclear, and indecisive. Okay, because, you know, and this is an interesting thing, actually, because I've seen people in the past talking about this from the point of view, like, you get a lot of people talking about the divine feminine and banging on about the divine feminine this and the divine feminine that and la da 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 da. Okay, all of us have both divine feminine and divine masculine energy within us, okay, and it is actually really fucking necessary as a human being to get the two of these things working together. And the decisiveness and the clarity and the action comes from your masculine. There's also a level of clarity and decisiveness that comes with the feminine, but the feminine is receptivity. So, you know, effectively, if you want to talk about divine feminine versus divine masculine, the divine feminine is tuning into what your soul actually wants to do and actually allowing yourself to receive that. So that receptivity, the intuition, bringing it down through. And then the masculine is taking that and turning it into something. So outwards action, okay? The two of them work together. It's not a one or the other thing. It's both. You know, it's not either or. It's both and, okay? And effectively, with this, you know, you can make it long-winded and you can make it hard, or you can make it a fuckload easier. And from that point of view, I have actually created a self-coaching and activation pack called The Reset, which takes you through a process of not only clarifying what the fuck it is that you want, no matter how big and crazy and outrageous it might seem, because actually when you tap into this stuff, sometimes it's a lot bigger than you think, but it also helps you to understand why it is that you've been cutting yourself from either understanding that this is what wants to happen, as well as all the ways in which you've been blocking yourself, you know, with limiting beliefs and so on and so forth. From the subconscious point of view, it also takes you through a process of energetic alignment so you can then move forwards with clarity, with decisiveness, with the right actions, rather than wasting your time on the wrong ones, okay? There's a problem with The problem with trying to do this without taking yourself through a proper process, and I know this for myself because, you know, there's been times where I've bumbled around in the dark, kind of trying to figure out this, that, and the other. This is why I developed this process, okay? The problem with not having a process to take yourself through is that you don't end up with enough clarity to know exactly which actions you actually need to take to actually be able to take them, along with the whole thing with the energetic piece, okay? Sometimes you can know the actions you need to take, but you will sabotage the living shit out of yourself because of the fact you have a load of structural blockages going on mentally, emotionally, and so on and so forth. So, you know, it's the equivalent of, you know, you can throw yourself into busy work and action, but it never gets anywhere because on some level you're blocking the action from being effective. You're blocking yourself from being seen, whatever it is. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that can go on where you can end up exhausting yourself trying to get the results that you know are meant for you because you're not energetically aligned, because there's stuff in the way. And because you're actually effectively taking lots and lots of actions, but none of them are quite the right ones, you can really pare things down to what I'm going to refer to as an economy of effort when you have the levels of clarity in place because you've taken yourself through, for example, the reset process. So I will say, you know, this is something that you can do with any goal at any time. You can take yourself through this process. I'm putting a link underneath this so that you can check it out. Okay, it's a digital pack. Once you've bought it, you can take yourself through it again and again. I'm actually pondering at the moment the idea of setting up a group to go with it. At one point I wasn't, and then I'm like, maybe it's a good idea. I'm not sure right now. I might take myself through the reset process to figure out whether it's the aligned thing or not. Anyhow, transformation, really, when it boils down to it, correct transformation starts with clarity. If you lack clarity, this process is for you. Links below. Check it out. Check out all the other things as well. And I will also say with this, you know, if you're listening to this and you're not in the mood for transformation itself, but you happened here because of the mention of dominant planets and astrology and so on and so forth, then there's also a link through to astroseek.com on here to the dominant planet doodah, so you can go and have a look for yourself. I'm leaving one with the sidereal and with the tropical too, so that literally, so you can check. And it's not I'm going to say right now, it's not an affiliate link or anything. Like, these are just literally so you can go and figure out what it is that is the overarching theme of, I'm going to say it right now, your purpose work. And it doesn't mean to say, like, I could have Uranus as my dominant planet and be producing paintings, and the purpose of the paintings would be for them to transform in some way the viewer of the paintings. As it is, I'm focusing on creating processes in digital work that does this, but I also do other things as well. You know, everything that I do has basically the purpose of creating transformation in those who choose to engage with it. Yeah, it is the overarching theme of my life. Okay, so if you're looking for transformation, you're in the right place. Check the links below this video. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. I'll see you again soon.